Welcome to the PA is In, the show created by PAs for PAs, where codependency with your supervising physician is a thing of the past, optimal team practice is the future, and physician associate has taken the place of physician assistant as the professional title of choice. I'm Tracy Bingaman, and I'm obsessed with redefining what success as a PA looks like and what it feels like. Here you'll find the mindset shifts, systems, and processes I use to escape healthcare burnout and integrate my work into my life. Work-life balance is a myth, and an integrated life where you thrive professionally, not a balancing act, is the goal here. My mission is to help you to grow into a unicorn PA who loves their job, has abundant energy, time to spare, and work-optional financial freedom. The PA is in. Welcome back to another episode of The PA is In. I am so excited today to introduce you to one of my new friends, Ashlee McNiff. Ashlee is a surgery PA turned entrepreneur who found a way to start her own business, contracting independently to support local surgeons in her area. If you've ever been entrepreneurially curious or just wondering what other ways you can serve the community outside of being a straight W-2 employee as a PA, this is the episode for you. Without further ado, here she is, Ashlee McNiff. Ashlee, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so exciting for me.
So tell us about yourself and what you do.
So I consider myself a surgical PA, but I actually own my own LLC, which I started so that I could privately assist physicians. And I've kind of branched out from there. I now also help manage and run a med spa for the plastic surgeon that contracts me through my LLC.
Cool. So talk to us about your journey from employed PA to running your own business and why you wanted to do that and how you went about making it happen.
My first job in surgery was with a company that used PAs and RNFAs and NPs, kind of almost like a staffing company, but we catered more towards doing some of the more um, higher end surgical cases, robotics, orthopedics, and we wanted to deliver more of an encompassing package other than just first assisting, but first assisting is primarily what we did. I loved it. I loved all that I learned. I loved all the physicians that I learned from, all the staff members that I learned from, just seeing how different facilities run, whether it was a surgery center or a hospital, really opened my eyes to a lot of different things on how businesses are run, but also how process improvements can happen as well in the OR. And that just kind of got the ball rolling for just future ideas. I had my first daughter when I was with this company, and the sort of like traveling style of daily schedule was a little too much. So I wanted something that was a little bit more predictable and I don't want to say sedentary, but at one facility. So I ended up interviewing for position with an orthopedic group, but found out through the course of my interview that my non-compete inhibited me from being hired by the orthopedic group. Because I had already worked very well with several of the surgeons in that large practice, they were able to talk to administration at one particular hospital and get the hospital to create a position for me so that the non-compete with the companies or with the group specifically didn't happen. The ability for them to create a position at the hospital level made it so that I didn't have an issue with the non-compete. So I transitioned to the hospital where I did orthopedics only in the OR, did orders, occasionally rounded with the doctors that I took care of. And that was really enjoyable. And when I was at that facility, I ended up having my second child. And while I was gone on maternity leave, there was a lot of restructuring with administration there. And when I came back, the climate had changed a little bit. They were starting to push me more into robots, which I didn't necessarily mind, but just with the culture shift there, I began, seeing what else was out there. And ironically enough, one of the surgeons that was at this hospital was opening up an independent surgery center. I ended up speaking with him, and he got me in touch with the CEO, and they were looking for somebody to open an outpatient total joint program. And at the time, Florida was up for a discussion of new law changes to allow 23-hour observation outside of a hospital. So they had anticipated wanting to do what they call the 24-hour observation in an outpatient setting. So they wanted somebody who was medical, familiar enough with orthopedics to basically run that. So I ended up coming on board with the surgery center. It was independently owned by physicians, and they had a lot of say in how it was run, which was neat to see from corporate things and then the surgery center. During that time that I was there, it was just a mind-blowing experience from all the different stuff that I was seeing. It wasn't as busy for the total joint program as I wanted it to be, and a lot of it had to do with the sort of niche that this one particular orthopedic group had carved out in this area. So independent orthopedic surgeons, it's not as big of a they don't have as much of a corner market here, and so they had to, or I'm trying to think of how to word this properly. The independent orthopedic surgeons in the area just didn't have as many patients that would meet criteria for us to be able to do it outpatient. So it became
Sure. So it has to be a specific patient who's a certain ASA and yeah.
BMI, all those different things. So I still wanted to make myself busy. I mean, I don't do well being idle, so I learned a lot of administrative stuff. For instance, ACA, which is the Agency for Healthcare Administration in Florida, which handles a lot of the licensing for healthcare facilities here. So learning a lot about their rules, helping in sterile processing. I began revamping our preference cards. I redid the sterile packs. I learned about Joint Commission. I learned all about how SPD has to process and run things. So I learned a lot of back end stuff on the days that I wasn't assisting. But, of course, still, I wanted to assist as much as possible. And I ended up assisting a lot of the surgeons that were in the surgery center, and a lot of them were plastic surgeons.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah. And so I was at the surgery center when COVID happened, and that was a very interesting roller coaster to see on both a large scale and a small scale how the healthcare, arena changed. But the one thing that was also helpful too was being that I was part of administration essentially and helping write policies and stuff like that. I really paid very close attention to a lot of the CDC recommendations and would work with our attending anesthesiologist and our director of nursing, and we would draft policies and we would implement things. And so just getting to see on a smaller scale how those things change was very interesting and very good. I even had the opportunity to go and march on Capitol Hill for advocacy for surgery centers. So I really got a chance to really see a lot of things that not a lot of PAs get to do, but also because I was extremely interested in just seeing whatever I could see. Because you never know when you can draw back on anything that you do or you see in your career and get to use it for something further.
When I graduated from PA school, my mom asked me what I wanted as a gift. I wanted a special piece of medical jewelry that I could wear every day. Searching the internet, I could find one single caduceus necklace, and it was slim pickings design-wise. Thankfully, we now have V Coterie, my go-to source for everything from adorable medical pins with witty puns and necklaces with charms for every specialty and area of medicine. They are on a mission to heal the healer through thoughtful design for healthcare workers, and V Coterie hits it out of the park again and again. Head to vcoterie.com to check out their latest collection of jewelry. Yeah, I mean, it really sounds like you were proactive and you were sort of collecting this knowledge of all these different aspects of what's happening. You know, like you see a pack come into the OR, it gets opened, you use the instruments. Like, then what, right? Like, who decides what goes in it? Where does it go? Like, what does it mean when they flash something? What does it mean when, like, you know, why don't we have enough packs? Like, where are they going? Like, what's the lag to get them back up so we can do a second case of the same case in the same day? And I think a lot of us, sometimes we're too busy doing our primary job to sort of know or care or have the inclination to say, like, what happens outside this room? Or like, is this influencing patient care? When we open up a pack, we don't have the instrument that we need, someone has to run for it and it takes 3 minutes, right? But that happens 4 times. So, you know, this is prolonging a patient's time under anesthesia. So it's of interest, right? But also it's improving patient care if you're optimizing those things and making sure you have what you need for that case.
Yeah, I mean, that's for sure a lot of it, because it saved time for people to pick their items. And another thing people don't realize, if you put majority of what you need in a pack, you actually save money. So these were all somewhat process improvements and, you know, monetary improvements for the surgery center that I was at.
So were you employed by them at that time? Like, that was your full-time job, was running the
Yes,
surgery center, assisting. Okay.
yes, that was my full-time job. Um, as I was saying about the total joints, you know, that landscape didn't end up being as busy as we anticipated. You know, we had probably 1 to 2 total joints a week by the time that I left. And while that was continuing to scale up, I was also getting, I guess, antsy, maybe, you know, just kind of doing the same thing in and out and really just kind of missing the OR. So I had decided that I was going to start my own business. Through one of the Facebook groups that I'm in for PAs, I came across many PAs who had done their own LLCs. I'd gotten a lot of mixed reviews on how to do it. So I began asking questions. They put me in touch with a PA that I ended up having a 1 hour just consultation. She put me in touch with somebody that I ended up hiring as my mentor. And this person gave me a lot of information, a lot of kind of ins and outs of what works for PAs, what doesn't. One of the things that I really found out was PAs, you know, we love to be workhorses, integral parts of the medical providing for our patients, along with our surgeons, and with all of our medical treatments. But the issue of having your own business as a PA and billing for yourself is there are limited reimbursements that you can get, because you know we can't bill as high as a physician and stuff like that. So there's an issue with billers, because a lot of times the billers would prefer to bill for a surgeon or might not be as forthcoming and bill for you because the return is a little smaller. So there is a network. I know that you were saying also through AAPA, but you know my mentor had a list of billers that worked really well with PAs, and having a good biller is very important. The other part of it is that I found out that staying out of network was actually the best way for a PA to survive as their own LLC in surgery. Um, that was something that I was worried about, is about it being a hard sell for the surgeons that I wanted to work with. But you know, you find your cases that have the best return, and most of the time the patients have already met their deductible, and you know, and these are all just the different things that I learned about as far as going that route. Ironically enough, one of the surgeons that I met at the surgery center, at the time that I had already just started the ball rolling with my LLC, wanted to contract me for services. And he ended up being busy enough that he worked 3 days a week. And from I had briefly gone back to the hospital setting in between being full time with my LLC and leaving the surgery center. So being a robotics PA in the hospital arena with no true hours, I was working a lot and my family was feeling it pretty hard. So it made it very easy to transition full time to being uh, an, a PA with my own business, assisting this plastic surgeon 3 days a week.
So you go to the OR and first assist on cosmetics cases. Do you work with any surgeons who aren't plastic surgery? So what does like your normal week or normal caseload look like?
So in January of 2022, I made the full leap of going completely independent and being on my LLC as my primary source of income. I had looked over it a bunch of times with my husband, with my financial planner, and I had already established what I was going to be making daily. And it was, I mean, it was a little bit of risk. I mean, you lose your opportunity for sick time, you lose your opportunity for PTO, you lose, certain perks that come with being a W-2 or being affiliated with a business or a hospital or something like that. But the trade-off of being with a surgeon who appreciated me sincerely, everything that I brought to the table, we had a great time in the OR, a great conversation. I really love the abilities that he has. I trust his outcomes. I would recommend every one of my friends and family to him. And that was also important to me, being a surgical PA and working with a wonderful surgeon is one thing, but there have been surgeons that treated me wonderful, but I wouldn't recommend any of my family members to go. And that's a difficult position to be put in. But to have all these things where you get along great with the person that you work with across the table for multiple hours a day, trusting their outcomes, and then they also value you. It's an incredible resource. So it just made sense. It made sense, and then I wanted a better work-life balance because, I mean, primarily, I work to live. I don't live to work, and my husband and my children are the number one in my life, and I want to bring whatever I can home to them and enjoy my life with them. And so I don't want to go to work and be miserable and then bring that home. I want to go to work, be happy, be valued, and then come home and and again, be happy, be valued, and bring that sense of purpose and happiness throughout, my entire day. So a typical week now for me is doing the OR Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. And then, that's how I started back in January. But then over the summer, the plastic surgeon that I work with, his name is Joseph Brown, and his business is Synergy MD Plastic Surgery. And when he created that name, it was because he had decided to join forces with a dermatologist. And this dermatologist, he's also board certified in both Mohs and dermatology. And they realized they practice a lot of the same philosophies of how to handle their office, how to handle their patients, how to handle their staff. And they also have a lot of complementary type procedures. So Synergy MD is the name that they came up with because they do have a very synergistic sort of play on their services. And as well, they're very synergistic personalities and bring different things to the table. So me being somebody who can never leave well enough alone, I knew that they were working towards growing their business, and I was excited for them, obviously for my surgeon. And, I'm only working 3 days a week. So what am I doing on my other 2 days? Well, one day during the summer, I wrote them an email of all these different ideas I had for their business. And they pretty much got right back to me and said, you know what, we just need you on board. We need you to come in here and help us manage and help us grow this business. And it pretty much was like cool, done. Nothing was signed on a dotted line for, X amount of stuff. It was just that it was this incredible opportunity for me to, again, get in on a ground floor, help see something through, help, a couple of doctors who, I mean, people wise, they're incredible human beings, and they provide a great service to their patients, and they treat their staff awesome. So who wouldn't want to support that as well? But again, getting to see more opportunities, things that are more unconventional for a PA, and then being able to see a business grow and be a part of that growth was just an incredible opportunity that I really couldn't pass up.
That's so awesome. And I feel like we talked before we hit record about how that's not my job. You say that's something that should never come out of your mouth. And this has served you really well. So, one, when a bunch of surgeons saw your value and called a hospital and said, hey, technically we can't hire this person, but we want you to hire her so we can utilize her. And then again, when a group of surgeons said, hey, help us start and run this business, and drawing on that experience has helped you to, to be positioned well for like, here are some ideas for process improvement, like here are different services, whatever it was in that email obviously got their attention. Like, hey, this person, first of all, you're going above and beyond. They're not paying you to like give them ideas on how to grow their business, and you stepped out of that comfort zone and said, hey, here's what I think might be helpful, here's what I've come up with. So talk to me more about how that's not my job has served you, and how that experience has sort of compounded to get you to the position you're in today.
Um, I want to say there's probably other PAs who have also echoed that sentiment, but you know, part of what we do and part of the service we deliver as medical professionals is, you do right by the patient. And honestly, if doing right by the patient is making sure that the floor is mopped for their case, I mean, sure, could I say that that's not my job? Well, okay, that's why you have a janitorial service, and they're an integral part of the team. But your ability to transition and be helpful and to learn and to grow and to gain the support and build the network of every valuable position around you, it only just further helps you grow and further helps you be respected and to gain some sort of understanding about how the whole thing works, because we're all really important pieces to the puzzle, but it's helpful to understand how the other puzzle pieces fit. And so by not limiting yourself to what you do and what you can bring to the table, the opportunities also expand. Because in the days where I was told by one of the other mid-levels that I was in the orthopedics program at the hospital with, I remember opening supplies for a case one morning to the back table, and she'd told me multiple times, she's like, just so you know, this is not our job. And she would say that, and she would use that a lot. And I just remember thinking, but it helps us all. The more stuff I open, the less stuff this person has to open, and the day gets moved along. And so I never had that sort of attitude of, that's not my job. Everybody's here for bettering the situation, for furthering the day, for learning something. And it makes a difference when you come to the table ready to work and ready to learn, as opposed to, this is my lane and I'm not deviating. And I don't, for me, that's always been important.
And you shouldn't be helpful because you might get something, but there is something to be said for this culture of reciprocity. So like, if you have helped that scrub tech, that nurse, the team, if you are willing to help move the patient and stand up from writing orders to give them what they need and lend a hand, when you need someone to hold a leg or do a thing, they're much more likely to help you because they like you, because you helped them. Because it just breeds this culture of everyone saying, like, this is my responsibility, like patient safety is my responsibility, getting this case done quickly and efficiently is my responsibility. And it's your responsibility to the team, but it's also your responsibility to the patient. And that, setting an example for other people, like, your reputation precedes you everywhere. And that is something that, like, it's very abnormal. So people are going to remember you doing that, you going above and beyond, you caring enough about that patient to do something that, sure, technically falls outside the realm of your specific job description, but in that moment needs to be done. That's important.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I mean, who wants to work in a place that doesn't have good morale? And what breeds morale other than camaraderie and feeling like you're not alone in the position of what you're doing?
Yeah. I used to work with a surgeon who we would do our time out in the OR, and then he would say specifically every time, every single case, patient safety is your responsibility. Everyone in this room is responsible for keeping this patient safe. So if you see something, you need to say something. And he had this whole spiel, and he went through and he's like, now we can start. And he always had like some like catchy phrase, like, let's save time to save some lives at the end that he would say. But the most important thing about it was consistency. He did it every time. Small case, cysto, stent removal, massive case, cystectomy, didn't matter. He did it every time out. And the reason that he did that was because when he was in residency, they had 2 retained sponges. And when they did a deep dive and they did an M&M and they asked everyone in the room, like, what happened? And they really dug into it. Each time there was someone in the room who was a student who saw there was a retained sponge, but was too scared to say something to keep that patient safe. And the OR is a weird place, right? The culture is strange. Surgeons are surgeons. If you've ever worked with a surgeon, you know the surgeons are surgeons. But in this way, he was saying, like, listen, you're not going to get yelled at. I'm not going to be mad that you're saying, stop, that's the wrong leg, or stop, that's the wrong ureter. I want you to come to me and I want you to say, like, there was a sponge, right? Or like, this, I didn't see that instrument come out of that person's body. Like, I have a question. Can you count your forceps, or whatever it is? That everyone is responsible for safety, and moving the case along is a safety issue. Like, it's not, we want to make sure everything's right, but we also want to be efficient and effective at what we're doing as a team. And the team is more than one person. And the team functions best when people have overlapping checks and balances, right? Like, sure, that's your job technically, but I see that not pulled through. Like, you need to retie that, or I see that this is missing. We need to find it, whatever it is, that culture of just like safety, and also caring more about others, right? Caring more about that scrub tech, like, who like ran to the bathroom and like helping them get set up, caring more about the patient than about yourself. That's very altruistic also, because like a lot of those things that you're doing outside the realm of your job are not glorious, right? They're not the things that are like awesome, it's something that might be a little less dignified, a little less, technically challenging, but still necessary.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
If you only take one sheet of paper to your next negotiation, let it be the PA Pay One Sheet. It's a tool designed to walk you through setting up the ideal outcomes, assessing the situation you are negotiating in, and it even includes a reminder of which negotiation skills you can use. Stop what you are doing. Download the One Sheet, print it out, fill it out, and literally bring it to the table with you when you are negotiating next. It's designed specifically to work in healthcare settings wherever you are. You can use the PA One Sheet to get the best deal, the biggest raise, and to help your confidence walking into your next negotiation. Head to www.tracybingaman.com/one, that's ONE, to download your free copy of the PA Pay One Sheet and start prepping for your next negotiation today. It's linked in the show notes, but in case you missed it, it's at www.tracybingaman.com/ONE. So the next thing we're going to talk about is finding what you're good at. So you have had a lot of moves in your career, and some of those have been strategic. Some of those have been, because something changed and you didn't want to stay somewhere. So when we were getting ready for this, you said you wanted to remind us to surround ourselves with people and providers that can help you align what you're doing with what you're good at. So how do we kind of dive into figuring out what we're good at, what our strengths are, and then finding that position that fits them well?
Mm. I mean, this might look different for, I mean, any of us. I mean, the avenues of medicine are endless, and what makes somebody choose, pulmonology versus pediatrics versus surgery. We all have different interests, but I think there is an element. You have to be truthful with yourself and know what you're good at. I I really like working with my hands. My undergraduate degree is actually in sculpture,
Oh,
which,
cool.
yeah, it's way different than probably what most people would have. But I know that I am very good at putting things back together. And it sounds very rudimentary and, of course, very obvious for surgery. But the flip side of it is that one of my favorite things to do in orthopedics was when we did fractures and I got to sew back a tattoo. And some of the stuff that I get to sew back are together now that I'm in plastic surgery. It's incredible the confidence that the surgeon has in my capabilities, but he knows that also I am very particular about aesthetics and very particular about the way things get put back together. And that is what I'm good at. I'm good at orchestrating things. I'm good at learning processes. I'm good at finding from start to finish how those things work. And then on the flip side of it, I I need to also be valued and have that voiced to me. Whether that's a universal thing for all of us, that is something that helps me function, helps keep me motivated. And so finding people that value my sense of trying to help processes, trying to help things improve and move them along, uh, and being able to utilize my sort of out of the box kind of thinking and then be appreciated for it, or at least given constructive criticism to where I'm motivated to continue to do it, to find something better or to continue to move and learn something more. It's important to be fulfilled in the job and the aspects that you do. And I know a lot of us aren't, because we kind of just check a box. Yeah, this is a job that I get paid for and I can pay my bills. But finding the people that make you feel good and sticking to them, or finding out what aspect of that is what you're drawn to, and honing in on that, and then sort of focusing your energy on trying to bring about for yourself and then bring about in the career choices or the life choices that you make. That those are the things that really kind of help you at the end of the day feel really fulfilled and feel really just motivated and happy to wake up. I mean, there's nothing better than waking up in the morning with a smile on your face for getting to do the job that you're doing.
Yeah. And it takes some trial and error. It's rarely the first thing you do out of PA school, the first specialty, the first job, the first iteration of that specialty. Because even within one single specialty, you can do clinic, you can do OR, you can do a mix, you can inpatient round, you can be the outpatient person. And so if what you're doing right now doesn't feel like that, if you're like, listen, I don't wake up with a smile on my face, I don't love what I'm doing, I barely like it, right? I thought it would be good. It's not what I thought. Like, make a change within your practice, within your schedule, within who you're seeing, what you do. You are not stuck doing what you want. And I deeply believe life is too short to do a job that you despise or even like mediocre like. Like, it's like, it's not worth it.
No, no. I mean, there are so many options and opportunities, and I think unfortunately a lot of times we feel sort of cubbyholed in the area of medicine that we're in, because whatever job you apply to usually requires X amount of years of experience to even apply to the job or things like that. I mean, there have been plenty of opportunities too that I feel like I've been afforded, but because I've really honed and cultivated the sort of people and feeling that I want in my life and sticking with that, I have continued to push forward and be able to make things happen and have opportunities present themselves to me because it goes back. I didn't say that's not my job, and I left opportunities open, and I've built good network and rapport with people so that somebody I still have surgeons in my phone that I can text I haven't talked to in 3 or 4 years and say, hey doc, I've got so and so, how are you? But this is somebody that needs some help. Do you have any recommendations for this surgeon or this facility or something like that? And maintaining these open lines of communication with people that I've built relationships with. And in no way does this ever begin to narrow. It's more opportunities, more cultivation of this sort of, network of positivity and network of learning that I enjoy.
Yeah. And I can tell that in the way that you talk about this. And one of the favorite things that you have said so far that really resonated with me was that you said, like, it's obvious to me that you love what you do. It's obvious to me that you really enjoy what you do when you're in the OR, when you're helping to grow that practice. But that also you turn off and you come home and you enjoy time with your kids and your spouse, and like the things that you love the most, probably more than work, are your life and the things that you get to do outside of work. I think life often takes a back seat, and it's beautiful to me to hear like you modeling so well this passion and purpose and something that you adore, and giving it boundaries and saying, I don't do it on the weekends, I don't do it into the evening. So how have you navigated that sort of working hard and your desire to achieve and to really rock, but also having that boundary and drawing that line?
So I can't say that I necessarily do that well yet.
None of us do.
I'm right. I'm really working on that balance. But the thing about also even mentioning it is that I'm trying to personally change a philosophy that I feel has been ingrained in a lot of us, especially as women, as mothers, that there's been a longstanding, you know, kind of culture that we always put ourselves last, and putting yourself last in your family and putting yourself last in your job doesn't really have a redeeming quality about it, because at the end of the day you're exhausted and you have nothing good left. And I have been in the position where I've worked 50, 60 hours a week, and while I tried to be on my A game at work, I would bring just, a rundown, unhappy version of me home to my family. And then I would feel so bad about just how tired and crabby I was with my family that I would go back to work and just be miserable that I didn't have a good experience with them. And so, that's really when I began changing a lot of my aspects with my job too. But now, helping grow a business from a very the doctors had already done a good job of kind of getting the ball rolling, but there's a lot of growth that can happen and needs to happen, and getting all the people called and all the conference calls made and all of the things done. There's not enough hours in the day, uh, even if I worked 7 days a week to make it all happen. So building the dialogue, I think publicly sometimes, I think that's why I wanted to mention this, talking about it, continuously coming back to the fact that you're important, and establishing boundaries is okay, and putting your family first is good for you, and making sure that every time you kind of feel like you're being pushed a little too much, readjust, circle back, make sure you look back at, what are the things you're doing in your life, and what are the ways that you can kind of mitigate this anxiety or feel like you're accomplishing more in the time that you're given. Always be willing to come back to not necessarily square one, but back to the drawing board and figure out how to make that work. And then also being very vocal to your supervisors, to everybody that, hey, I am here so that I can have a great life and practice, the kind of medicine or the kind of, business that I want, but I really am not my job. And you can give yourself parameters. And one of the favorite things that I've told a lot of people, especially, actually, I mean, new people women who are about to be moms, but also people who have been older than me that are more ingrained in the give work your all. We are replaceable at work. Somebody can put out an ad. There are many jobs that we do as PAs that, you're right. Maybe not everybody could fill your shoes, but I am absolutely not replaceable at home. And it is my responsibility to my family, to a husband who I love and adore, to my children who I, get so much joy out of, to be there for them and to be the mom and the wife that I want to be for them. And I have to keep reminding myself at times that it doesn't happen that it's okay and I should put them first.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm tearing up a little because I remember those days of like I was leaving so much at work, but I came home an empty shell of the wife, the mom, the woman that I wanted to be in the world. And that there are so many moments that I just can't get back because work was sucking me dry. And then I came home and my kids like wanted to show me something or say something. And I was just like, no, I can't give this the amount of time and attention and savor this moment because I'm just empty. And these are two things I thought of when you were talking about that. You said boundaries are okay. I would go so far as to say boundaries are vital. Work will fill the space that you give it. So if you give it 12 hours or you give it 2 hours, like you will get it done, not necessarily all of it. And that's okay. Like there's tomorrow, there's next week, there's next month. It doesn't need to be done today. And boundaries are vital in order to find this ability to turn it off, unplug, be present home. And then at home, you are the only one, right? You are the only one who can mom those kids. You are the only one who can show up well for yourself, for your spouse, at home, and the things that give you passion and purpose outside of work. And at work, you are one of many, right? If you walked out that door and never came back, they would figure it out. If you walked out the door at home and never came back, like their lives would be changed forever. And I think we're all a little bit egotistical. Like we want to be like, no, if I left at work, like they would be dying without me, right? They just wouldn't be able to function. I mean, maybe temporarily, right? But they would figure it out, right? Someone else would do your job. They would hire someone, they would change their processes. But at home, like there would be an irreplaceable hole that they could never fill. Like there's no other mom, it's an important and often hard realization, especially if you're in a season where you feel like you're not showing up in a way that makes you feel good. That's hard, to hear. It's hard to realize. And even when you're out the other side, it's still hard to sort of remember the way that you weren't showing up well for your family.
Yeah. Yeah. And you reiterated truly exactly why I feel like this really needs to be a constant dialogue, especially amongst us PA moms, is that I said, boundaries are okay, but you're right. Boundaries are not okay. They're vital. And it is something that we need to validate, and we need to continue to circle back and give permission that, boundaries are more than okay. Boundaries are necessary for you to be a functional human being, for you to be a functional PA, and absolutely for you to be a functional mom and spouse and all those different things. And that is, something that has slowly really become a soapbox for me, because I've been so out of balance for, maybe not my whole career, but for a lot of it. And I love that my daughter gets to see me work, and I love that she sees that I'm happy in what I do. But I love when I come home and I unplug and, we play cards, or she draws pictures, or we stick our feet in the pool and just hang out. And I love that she sees that I get to work hard and like what I do, but then I get to come home and mom hard.
Yeah. Yeah. And they are watching everything that we are doing. And that example is amplified. So, like every day that you come home and put your phone down and don't answer email so that you can be present with your kid, they are learning like this is how to mom well, right? And how to mom well is also you saying, hey, I'm not that great at this and I'm working on it, right? Like that is true for all of us. I think anytime anyone tells you like I have this completely figured out, I never mess it up, I have perfect balance, like that's bullshit. Like no one is out there getting this exactly right.
Not at all. Not at all. And that what you just said too about, putting your phone down and focusing on them too. If we don't do that, then we perpetuate the sense of them not being a priority. And they're going to continue to feed into that sort of mentality of, deprioritizing themselves for whatever task is at hand. And even though it's easy to get caught up in an email or to get caught up, and I mean, I still do, and I can't even profess that I'm, this amazing guru who knows how to balance it correctly. But to make a conscious effort to put down the phone and have, like, we've started implementing very recently electronic free Sundays, where it's just,
Yay!
yeah, it's just us outside. I'm gardening, we're hanging out in the pool, we're, walking, doing bicycles, things like that, where it's you have to, it's so easy to get sucked in the vacuum of work and to get sucked into the vacuum of electronics and anything that you do. It's a conscious effort to change that. I feel like in this day and age, we consciously have to pay attention to not doing that, to pulling back and to refocusing time and energy on the smaller scale and with our children and with our relationships with the people that we value most.
You know what that is? That's a consistent named boundary, right? You made a boundary that Sunday is not for phones, right? That we're going to do no electronics, that we're not going to turn on the TV, which is so easy as a parent of young kids to just pop it on. But yeah, it's such a beautiful reminder that the connection that we're hungry for is with the people that matter most to us. It's not with the people that we follow on Instagram, right? Like, they matter and they matter a lot to like their family, but like who matters in this, day? Who can I actually, pour into and spend time with? This has been so much fun. I feel like we are just old friends sort of chatting about our experience as a PA, which is really what I want this platform to be. Like, here's a way, like, here's a possibility you might not have considered before. Here's someone doing it imperfectly and figuring it out as we go. So if people want to learn more from you or connect with you, what is the best way for them to get a hold of you or send their thanks or appreciation for you being on the show?
Well, thank you for having me. And I would love for anybody that has any questions to reach out to me. The best way and the easiest for me to respond is actually through email. And it's A McNiff, my last name, McNiff, PAC @gmail.com.
Awesome. We will link that in the show notes in case anyone didn't catch it. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us, Ashlee. We really, really appreciate it.
Thank you, Tracy. I appreciate what you're doing for all of us hardworking PA moms. It's a great opportunity for us to commingle and share our experiences and just grow and support each other.
I don't know about you, but I am leaving this episode feeling like I want to go back to work and look left and right and up and down and seek out other opportunities to improve the care that we're taking of patients, the processes that we have at our office, and to be more of a team player, to be more invested in what our practice is doing as a whole to take care of patients. It also has made me want to reevaluate my boundaries and put down my phone and be where my feet are planted and be invested in where I am and what role I'm playing at that particular time of my day. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of The PA is In. We will see you next time. Congratulations, you've just joined an awesome club. By listening to a full episode of The PA is In, you are officially on the Unicorn PA team. Welcome aboard. What most team members do is they subscribe to the podcast because that allows them to automatically get the latest episode of the show. The life of your dreams exists on the other side of taking action. Keep making small shifts and keep getting better. Your life will improve, your career will soar, and you will have the confidence you need to create your own success. I will see you in the next episode. This PA is out.